How did it start?
You started by talking about Scrappy Doo sucks.
Yes. Okay. So Scrappy Doo sucks. Okay. So let me continue. So if you remember, so think about this. So Scrappy Doo is actually they always say that Scrappy Doo is Scooby Doo's nephew, or yeah, but actually it's not. In fact, Scrappy Doo actually, if you look at some of the lore from other Scooby Doo media, it tells you that in fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I have wrote down.
Well, tell us about how Scooby Doo's an alien.
Bro, I'm low-key swimming, and this is scary. This is like deep.
Tell Dylan about how Scooby Doo's an alien.
Yes. So Scooby Doo is in fact an alien, and if you want to know why, it's because
But that's just the
He
theory.
came to America and stole our jobs.
Sorry. Now, okay. I remember now. I'm sorry. I lost myself right there. Okay. So if you watch the Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated series, you remember in the show there's a dog named Lola who in fact is a member, also a descendant of this ancient race of aliens who actually help humans. Also did not have a physical form, so they had to take the form of aliens, or they take the form of animals. That in that case, Scooby-Doo and Lola, they took the form of dogs. That's why when one of Scooby-Doo's famous catchphrases from the old Scooby-Doo TV shows is "Dog where?" Because he's not actually a dog. In fact, he's an alien. So that's one thing to think about. Also, another thing is that well,
What about the Scooby-Doo movie, though?
yeah, Scooby-Doo has a split timeline. I think there's a lot, but there's three main ones. There's the computer universe, the non-ghost universe, and the ghost universe. The ghost universe is the universe when it's started by the Supernatural crew. Yes, it's the show Supernatural. Crosses over with Scooby-Doo and releases a spirit from the show into one of the actual old episodes. And that makes the gang realize that ghosts and demons and stuff are real. That's why Velma says that means that all this life we learn is that demons, ghosts, werewolves are all real, and they're not just guys in costumes. But actually, there's a whole universe where they actually are. That includes Be Cool Scooby-Doo, Mystery Incorporated. Mystery Incorporated sometimes. Mystery Incorporated is like the gold mine of lore for Scooby-Doo. Explains everything because in that one there is actual ghosts and it's also guys in costumes. Most of them is just guys in costumes. It's actually a whole entity that is an evil entity of the species of Scooby-Doo is, and he takes the form. He takes control. Actually, he's not. He's an evil entity that came to Earth a long time ago, but only one of them. There's only one entity per universe, kind of. But that's a theory. That's a theory. But that would correspond with the fact that, well, in the finale of the show Mystery Incorporated, where one of the main bad guys, Dr. Pericles, who is an owl, who's the same species as Scooby-Doo, because he's actually a talking owl. He actually is able to be possessed by the entity and tries to swallow the universe whole, kind of like Azrael in Undertale. But he wants to just destroy, instead of resetting it, he wants to destroy it. It's completely destroy everything in its path. But the gang is able to stop him with the power of friendship or some gay shit like that. And they're able to reset the timeline to a universe where the entity never existed and made it so. First of all, I didn't mention this. Their lives are a lot more better. So instead of Shaggy and Scooby being lazy eaters, instead Shaggy is a world-renowned cook, and instead of Velma being just a little like a nerdy high school girl, instead she's her and Hot Dog Water, which is a main character from the show. It's a weird name, I know, but that's what they call her.
Dog Water.
They're both a famous science duo who are famous for creating many different scientific experiments. And also, instead of Fred and Daphne being in a love me will, love me not relationship, instead they're actually engaged. And also, instead of Daphne being unproductive and her sisters being very productive with the jobs, instead of Velma looking up to their sisters, or instead of Daphne looking up to her sisters look up to her because she's like the perfect daughter. So that's another thing to go off on because it's a whole other timeline. So that's kind of like a sub universe, which we don't get much on because there was supposed to be season 3, but they actually never made it because they have another cliffhanger of there's supposed to be another season where they explain everything, but they never did that because the show sucked because the people who made it suck and they all yeah. But we're not gonna go off that. So another part, I'll explain the computer universe. So the computer universe basically starts with the movie called Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase. The Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase explains how they get into a cybernetic world where keep in mind, Shaggy has a big role in this, which explains this. Shaggy, in fact, has a red shirt. It has the same design, and if you look at his eyes, it has the same design as that in the Scrappy-Doo show. But that's only in the first 2 or 3 seasons. So that it says that the first 2 or 3 seasons of this Scooby-Doo, the Scrappy-Doo Adventures, that's just in the computer. But then the rest of it is actually real. That includes there's actually because that universe actually crosses over with the universe where ghosts are real. Because there's actually 3 movies that include Scooby and Scrappy Meet the Werewolf. Where Shaggy turns into a werewolf, because he actually turns into a werewolf. And then there's another one called Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School, where they mean a school full of ghouls, like ghosts and zombies and vampires. There's another one where it's called Scooby-Doo and the Boo Brothers, which are actual ghosts. So that's another thing to go off on. So that explains, and it might seem like real goofy and stuff, but that's actually part of the lore and all that. That actually explains how. My theory, I actually made this theory, that the Scrappy-Doo show explains how Shaggy and Scooby are the only ones who actually, they may seem cowardly, they actually want to take a stand against this spirit. So what I think is they're actually agents or they're spies for the supernatural group, and they're trying to hunt down. So, basically, like I said, I forget where it was. Yeah, okay, so they're spies of the Supernatural group, and they're trying to find the spirit that got lost in the episode so they can get it out and change and just delete the universe. So that universe is trying to be destroyed, but it still exists today, essentially. Now, the newest installment of the Scooby-Doo universe, which is the movie Scoob, which explains the origin story of the Scooby-Doo, was kind of like that. It's one of the timeline's origin stories, because there's actually 3 known origin stories of Scooby-Doo that explains where it came. And one's a TV show, and 2 of them are movies. The first one is a pup named Scooby-Doo, which I don't remember. I think they bought it from a pet store or something like that, which is pretty kind of a normie kind of thing. But but the pup named Scooby-Doo is actually the most important one, because that also is the same timeline as the very first Scooby-Doo show, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You, and What's New, Scooby-Doo. So those are part of the same timeline. There's also another timeline. There's also another one which is like its own timeline by itself, which is Scooby-Doo: The Mystery Begins, which is a live-action movie that came out in the early 2000s. And that one. It explains that Scooby-Doo was a carnival reward. If you get a high enough score on a carnival game, then you can get Scooby-Doo. You can get your new pet. That's how they met him. And also in this one, keep in mind, and they might think this is because, well, I mean, they didn't have dye. People didn't dye their hair much. But Shaggy and Fred, instead of having blonde hair, they both had dark brown hair. Which is something to really take apart, because I explained that this is a different universe. This is a whole different universe. And then finally, there's the last origin story of a different timeline, which is Scoob, which explains the story how Shaggy and Scooby met on the beach when apparently Scooby was a lost dog. I don't really know where it came from. But keep in mind, if you actually take some information for Undertale and how Sans and Papyrus kind of appeared, they just showed up one day. That's kind of how Scooby-Doo appeared, because he just showed up one day. So that explains that this kind of like how Pennywise appeared in it, because he crash landed. So maybe that's what happened. Scooby-Doo crash landed on Earth a long time ago, was just an alien, and over time he just took different forms. But his current form is Scooby-Doo, which is kind of what it did. His main form was Pennywise. So that is the story. That is the whole timeline of Scooby-Doo.
Epic. Why did you have to? Quick question. Why did you have to bring the movie It into this?
Because I was making an analogy to that. The way that Pennywise appeared on Earth kind of was how Scooby-Doo came to Earth. I know it's weird, but that's just how.
Do you have any other weird timelines that you could explain to us?
Let's see what else. I mean, there is another universe, but it's very far-fetched. I mean, the movie's bad itself, but it's the live-action Scooby-Doo movies from the early 2000s.
I love those.
They're nostalgic, but in reality, they kind of suck.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't know. I watched them a long time ago when I was a child.
That's what I was saying.
But
so
wait, let me explain why I love I'm pretty sure it's whichever the one where they switch bodies. Is that the first one?
That's Monster Island. That's Scooby-Doo Monster Island.
The reason that movie is a masterpiece is because the first thing that Fred does when he gets into Daphne's body is look at her boobs.
Yeah, people like to see that those two, like that Monster Out and Monsters Unleashed. Yeah, they like to see those like they're like cinematic garbage.
But that one scene is what makes the movie a masterpiece. If I had the chance, if my parents were in the living room, or like if I went in my brother and he was in the living room watching that movie, I'd sit there and watch it with him.
The second one's also a masterpiece because actually we get to see Velma as a bimbo in a jumpsuit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wait.
So in that universe, it's very bleak. We don't really get much lore or anything.
It's just movie.
The furthest origin we get is in the second movie where it shows like them in high school. In this one, it explains that they graduated from high school. They're all adults already, and it explains that when they're in high school, they actually were still part of Mystery Incorporated, and there's normal kids. Doesn't really do much in that universe, so there's not much to go where. Everything else, any others, other than those two movies, everything else it goes into the universe of ghosts are real, ghosts are not real, and the computer universe. That's the main three, like the top
but
three
also,
genres I'll go to.
Isn't the computer universe has crossed over with the other universe before?
Yeah, because in the cyber chase,
yeah.
Scooby-Doo and the gang get inside the universe and they actually meet them. Which, so, if you take some information from Back to the Future, it would create a time paradox, which explains that, well, now the understand
Of course, this is so much alike to Back to the Future.
Well, I'm taking Doc's information because. Like he said, that if two different universes meet, okay, it's like this: if you go back in time and you meet your younger self and you actually interact with each other, then the time itself will just implode because it's messing up the time and space continuum.
But for some reason, Marvel does not believe that.
Yeah, because Marvel's a bunch of dickwads.
Yeah.
But basically, that would say something though. So. The computer universe may seem like they don't have a mind of their own, but really they kind of do. So that would create a whole time paradox between different timelines, which sort of would tell that, they understand, because in the computer universe, monsters are real. It's supposed to be real. They're not real,
because they're generated through computers.
They're generated images that are put on a computer screen. But in a way, they understand that in their universe, ghosts might not be real, so that might explain. This makes a theory come out. What if? Okay, the origin story of what if that Scooby-Doo from the cyberspace when they were in the computer screen, they understand that in their universe ghosts are real. So because we understand in the cyberspace they didn't like being there because there's ghosts floating around everywhere. So what if they escaped the computer world and got into the real world, which would create a whole new paradox where they understand that ghosts are real, so that would create the universe of the Scrappy universe. That explains how in that one Shaggy has a red shirt, and how the computer graphics are just crap. So that explains it. That's another theory. So a lot of time paradoxes, and a lot of crossover timelines, and a lot of entities that have tried to destroy Earth. And this is all just Scooby-Doo. And my show made my hand up Barbera. So I have actually gone through that is a realistic description of the whole timeline and explaining the universe of Scooby-Doo.
Okay. Yes. One question.
No more words. No more sentence. No more questions. No. That's
Wait.
it.
No.
No more discussion. No more discussion. No questions. That's all.
Hey, Hudson,
It's
are you
left.
done?